to one and all. On behalf of the Department of Architecture, Periyar Maniamma Institute of Science and Technology, I take this opportunity in welcoming each one of you to this webinar, which is part of our alumni lecture series. So I'm wishing all of the participants a great session to follow. Today, we have with us our Dean, Faculty of Architecture and Planning, Dr. C.V. Subramanian, and our Head of the Department, Architect Ramesh Babu, and our Speaker of the Day, Architect Anu S. Kumar, Architect and Urban Designer, Toronto, Canada. Thank you all for joining us. And as part of the organizing committee, we also have with us Architect Balahari Krishnan, Assistant Professor, who's coordinating the lecture today. So on that note, I would like to invite our Dean to address the participants. Over to you, sir.
Very good evening to all the participants from India, and good morning to Anu from Canada. In line with the Silver Jubilee celebration of the department, we have conducted international conference, lot of seminars, various workshops for all the students to improve their practical knowledge, and various competitions and exhibitions. In line with that, we have started this alumni lecture series in December 2019, inviting every month alumni interacting with our students. So for today's program, we have more than 100 participants registered. 1/3 of them are architects and 2/3 of them are students from 20 plus institutions and from 4 different states. Happy to note this, and I hand over to Professor Architect Ramesh Babu, who is heading this student-friendly department.
Hello, good evening, one and all. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, one and all here. I welcome all of the participants to this wonderful section. Today's session is mostly about open spaces. So, as you know, today we are in a pandemic situation where there should have to be a rethinking on the total concept of open space, because conventionally we were thinking as open spaces to be more lively space with more interaction and other thing. And today's speaker, Anu S. Kumar, is an expert in urban design. Hope we'll be hearing a wonderful presentation followed by interaction. So with this, I'm leaving the show to Ms. Anu S. Kumar. Thank you. Welcome you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Uma can introduce the speaker.
Yes, sir, sure. So introducing the speaker of the day, Architect Anu S. Kumar is an alumna of PMIST of the batch 2008 to 13. Her passion towards urban design made her do her master's in urban design from SPA New Delhi. She's currently located in Toronto, Canada. Earlier, she has rendered her service as an architect at Freeborn Designs, Montreal. Currently, she finds herself as an intersection of architecture, urban design, and journalism. Since she has gained experience in architectural practice as well as an academician. And also, earlier she's an urban intern at Greater Cochin Development Authority, working for the development of pedestrian paths and public spaces along with our friends of Kochi, Kerala. So myself, Architect Balahari Krishnan and Anu, we grew up together all the 5 years, learning architecture together. We are batchmates. So since then, I've known Anu as a very enthusiastic, a person who is always interested to learn and have that urge to know more. So she's still that person even today. On that note, I'm really happy to welcome Anu, and I request Anu to take over the session.
Thank you.
Over to you, Anu.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me, because this is really special from my part. Because coming back to the college that you studied is really, really special, and I'm really honored to be here. And thanks for inviting me. And I have to really also thank Balahari Krishna and Uma Mautika for their prompt service in this endeavor. So I'm just going to start with my presentation, and just a second. Okay. So I'm just going to start with the presentation. As you all know, this is regarding urban design. It's regarding people space in the cities. So I hope everyone knows what urban design is. And urban design is something that deals with the space in between the buildings. As architects, we'll be designing the spaces within the building or a building itself. But as urban designers, we actually design spaces which are outside the building. So just to summarize what urban design is, and urban design can be applied not only to the cities, it can be applied to a town or village or any space where there are people. So I'm just going to show you some examples of people space and also elaborate on two examples, which is in New York and in Denmark. Okay, first of all, let's start with the concept of people space. So everyone would be knowing something about the people space or would have encountered people space in their cities. For example, if I can take the case of Tanjavur, I would say that Brihadeshwara temple is one of the best example of a people space because a lot of tourism happens there. People from all the surroundings come to this particular location, and also a lot of markets and other lively spaces of the city are located near the temple. So people space can happen in different levels, and people space are those spaces where we as a person in the city feel belongingness. So going on to some examples of people space can happen in different levels, as I mentioned earlier. So the image that you can see towards the left is that of the city of Montreal in Canada. And there you can actually see that there are a lot of exhibition spaces, parks, and water bodies where people can really come together and enjoy. And people space can also be a small design initiative in between apartments or neighborhoods. It can also be street design. It can also be a community space design. Community space design in the sense, there will be spaces in the city where people will like to come and read a book, or will like to come and chat with a friend. So such kind of spaces are also people space. And the smallest intervention that you can see is that of street art. Street art is a comparatively very smaller urban design intervention that you can see in the cities. So okay, everyone would be familiar with these two movies, I think, Nayagan and Kala. So I just want to tell you, I think that movies explain more than any other thing. So I just took those images from these movies. And as you can see, if I ask you why we need people space in the city, the answer would be that the people space is one thing which has an image. Everyone in the city relates to a people space. For example, the image towards the left, this one, that is actually the image of the city of Mumbai. And as a person who is living in the city, everyone needs space for protesting, everyone needs space for romancing, everyone needs space for all kind of celebrations in cities. So people space are very important for the cities, and these are also again taken from movies. So I'm just going to show you through all these movie images the issues that we face in the cities. So as you know, cities have a lot of issues. One of them is that the employment opportunities are very less. So people space can provide employment opportunities, or these open spaces can provide employment opportunities. And if I take the concept in the Asian cities, especially in India, we can see that there is a lack of space for recreation, and there is also probably a lot of cities which get flooded during the years. So that is also one of the problem that we face in the cities. The major problem in all these cities is the lack of open space. So here I'm just going to compare the scenario which is there in the crowded cities of the West, especially cities like New York and even Toronto in Canada. So the Western countries have a different set of problems. The main problem is that there are a lot of mental health issues. Like everywhere you can see people, using other kind of substances, injecting it into them, and there is a sense of loneliness if you live in a Western city. So right now, I am just coming to the core of the presentation, that why urban design or creating people space is important for architects. So whatever we build as architects is actually resonating in our cities. So the image towards the left on the upper side is that of the city of Kochi. And you can see that each building stands by its own identity. There is no identity for the street. Every building is designed by some other architect, and every architect exhibit their talents. But when it comes to the street, there is nothing. And this is the city of Montreal, and you can see that every building is different in terms of its structure, in terms of its architecture, but it actually contributes to the harmony of the street. So that is urban design, that is people space. So just taking you to some of the examples of the people space. So people space is actually a space which is accessible to all, a kind of street design. It is accessible to all, whether you are in a lower class or you are in the middle, or whatever strata of the society you are, it's accessible to all. I'm going to take the city of Paris. So these are the cafes in the city of Paris. You can see there's a tree which is there in the center, and they have really incorporated trees or natural things into the people space. Then I'm going to move into the old port of Montreal. So you can see here that actually the buildings itself creates an enclosure. Enclosure means a contained space where people feel attracted to, and they spend more time in such kind of place. So this is the street of Hanoi in Vietnam. This is also a train street. As you can see here, there is a railway line, and towards both the sides of the railway line, it is actually a tourist spot. So this is one of the example where the urban designer has not done anything, but people have created their own people space. And here there is a line of street. I mean, in this line of street, you can see a lot of shops and a lot of people in the informal sectors who come here. And this also enhances the livelihood opportunities. So this can be applied to every other Asian countries, because people can sell something, and people who are involved in the informal sector, they can come here and have a livelihood. And this is another street of the Vietnam. So this is the same. I mean, sorry, this is the same street of Vietnam, and you can see that the tourism opportunities. People all throughout the world come to this very small space, and this has actually made this particular street thrive. This is the case of India, Badra Fort redevelopment. It is done by architect B.V. Doshi. So here you can see that the heritage or the history of the past is incorporated into the people space. And now I need to touch on the traditional people space. And as you know, traditional people space were mostly temples and places of worship. And also in case of houses, you can see the thin air space or the buffer space between the street and the architecture is also a people space. And coming to the rural India or villages of Tamil Nadu or Kerala or wherever it is, you can see in between a lot of tea shops, and these tea shops were actually traditional people space. Everyone come there and they just share their opinions about politics and cinema and all those things. So and also one of the characteristics of Indian streets, if you take the case of North Indian streets, is that it's wide and also it's also closed. So such kind of spaces promotes interaction between the people. But when it comes to a contemporary scene, the problem is that such kind of spaces are not there. We are actually facing a problem where the cities are crowded. So I'm just going to show you two examples. One is the Highland of New York, and the second is the Copenhagen, Denmark. So I'm just going into the first example. So as you can see towards the left side, this is the Highland of New York. And Highland of New York was a railway line which was connecting a meat factory to another place in the center of the city. So by 1980s, this railway line became obsolete. It has become non-functional. So what the people did was that this is the picture of Highland before, and you can see that this is entirely derelict. Like a lot of anti-social activities happened in this place. So later on, they developed the Highline into what you can see towards the right side, where it is actually a green space connecting the entire city. And I'll show you how important Highline is to the New York. So in case of New York City, it's very crowded. It is actually having the world's most number of skyscrapers in the world. So see what Highland does to the entire city. The entire city has one green zone where people feel connected to. And these are some of the images of the Highland of New York. So this was a train space. So this was a railway line, and now they have entirely landscaped the path. So this is one example where urban designers have collectively worked with landscape architects, planners, And also they have also worked with smaller architecture firms so that they can provide accessible spaces for people of all ages. So you can see that a child is playing here. So it means that it's accessible to people of all age. Everyone can come to this space. So these are the aerial views of High Line of the New York, and it's very super busy place of the city right now. And the important fact is that the places which have view to the High Line has higher real estate value in New York City because they can see the greens. And here, this is another example of a place in Highland. And you would be thinking, what is the urban design intervention here? So the urban design intervention here is that all the people, we as urban designers, we identify spaces where people can come together. And we propose something over that space. And then landscape architects comes in, and then urban planners comes in, and then architects comes in building ideas. So that's what is the contribution of urban designers in this particular Highland of New York. And the second example is the Superkillen in Copenhagen, Denmark. And this is one of the best projects that we can see in the contemporary world. And here, in case of Superkillen, you can see that it is like a picture which is carved on the ground. So you would be, wherever you are in the space, you would be attracted to this space because of its color combination, right? It has a lot of chunky colors, and these are the images of the Superkillen. You can see that people really like to come here because it has jogging tracks, it has places for exercising, and it has also places where children can play. So this is the city of Denmark, and you can see towards the left side that this is the only space in the city where people feel attracted to. And this is the space. Towards the right, you can see that there are spaces where water ripple-like effects is created. And this is one of the favorite place for new immigrants. And the problem with Denmark during this time was that, or why they created this particular place is because there were a lot of immigrants in Denmark, and compared to the citizens of Denmark, the immigrants didn't have places to go out or didn't have places where they could relax or have some recreation or such kind of activity. So this is a Superkillen, and Superkillen has a lot of furniture designs, and these furniture designs are done by architects. So again, I'm just quoting that architects have greater role to play in urban design. And towards the upper part, you can see the wave-like effect, and this wave-like effect is the one that you see on the right side, okay, where actually irrespective of age, be it the children or be it the parents of the children or be it any kind of people, they would love to come to this space. And so that's it. That's what I have to present now. And as Ramesh Babu sir mentioned before, all these spaces were really active till the pandemic time, and now it is not just that much active because we were not yet prepared to handle the pandemic. That's what I have for you. Thank you. Yeah. Any?
Thank you, no. That was a wonderful presentation. So actually, like you have mentioned, these public places are like the heart of the city. So presentation was very interesting and it's like inspiring too. Thanks for taking your time and presenting over here. And I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants for taking your time and showing your patience in attending this session and making it meaningful. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.